Australian waters are home to a large number of unique marine mammals, including 45 species of whales, dolphins and porpoises. Some of these species are permanent residents in Australian waters, whilst others are occasional visitors, migrating from their summer feeding grounds in the Antarctic to the warmer waters of the Australian coast during winter. Australians have long recognised the importance of whales to our unique marine ecosystems and believe that it is essential to ensure the survival of these mammals long into the future. The Australian Government has made whale conservation a priority and is a world leader in the protection and conservation of these species, both in Australia and on the international scale. The earliest forms of whaling date back to 3000 BC. Industrial whaling emerged with organised fleets in the 17th century, competitive national whaling industries in the 18th and 19th century, and the introduction of factory ships along with the concept of whale harvesting in the first half of the 20th century. By the late 1930s, more than 50,000. For the first 70 years of the Australian colonies, whaling was a very important part of life. From the 1790s to the 1850s, whaling was the first primary industry. Harpoons were used from small boats that towed the whales behind back to whaling stations at shore. Whale blubber was melted down to make oil for lamp fuel, candles and lubricants. It was also used as a base for soaps and perfumes. Baleen, commonly called whalebone, was used to make umbrellas, corsets and whips. Whaling stations were active throughout Australia, including Albany in Western Australia, across to Byron Bay and Tangalooma on Moreton Bay Island in the 1950s. More than 6,000 humpback whales were caught at Tangalooma within a 10-year period, and 1,100 humpbacks in 8 years were taken at Byron Bay. This actively caused populations to plummet to about 570 individuals on the east coast. The Australian Whale Sanctuary has been established to protect all whales and dolphins found in Australian waters under the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act 1999. Severe penalties applies to anyone that kills, injures or interferes with a whale, dolphin or porpoise within the sanctuary. Any activities that occur within the Australian Whale Sanctuary, such as research expeditions that may impact whales, dolphins and porpoises, may require a permit. No permits can be permitted to kill a whale, dolphin or porpoise, or to take these animals for live displays in aquariums. There are currently 5 species of whale that are nationally threatened, and these include the blue whale, southern right whale, sea whale, fin whale and the humpback whale. Japan's large-scale industrial whaling is relatively new compared to its limited tradition of small-scale whaling that dates back centuries. Japan's industrial whaling started after World War II when food was in short supply. Japan's current whaling occurs off its coast and in the North Pacific and Antarctic. It takes place due to the Japanese food market's demand for whale meat. 7,500 tons of edible whale meat is sold annually from the Japanese scientific whaling fleets, small whale and dolphin hunts, and bycatch. However, consumption of whale meat in Japan per person has fallen from 2,000 grams in 1967 to approximately 50 grams in 2005. Whale meat prices were reduced in 2009 by half just to move stockpile. In 1982, the International Whaling Commission adopted a moratorium on commercial whaling. However, Japan continued to operate whaling ships through a loophole which allows for scientific whaling. Part of the scientific reasoning behind Japan is that they must catch and kill juveniles as well as adult females in order to determine the age minke whales reach sexual maturity. This data would then be used by Japan to prove that minke whale populations are healthy enough for regular whaling to occur. In 2009, as many as 150 large whales from vulnerable coastal stocks were taken annually as bycatch by the Japanese fleets, according to a published DNA analysis. Japanese legislation was changed in 2001 to allow the commercial sale of whales caught as bycatch that is entangled in fishing nets designed to catch coastal fish. 56% of the whales that were sold proved to be from an endangered stock of minke whales. The high rate of bycatch poses a significant threat to the survivability of the stock, and according to the IWC population estimates, the population could face extinction within a few decades. Minke whales, brood S whale, fin, sea and sperm whales are all targeted by the whaling fleets. Of these, the fin whale and sea whale species are classified as endangered under the IUCN Red List. Sperm whales are also considered vulnerable under the Red List. In the 2007-2008 season, 912 whales were taken from the oceans by Japanese fleets. 2010 and 2011 saw 455 whales killed. In the 2012 to 2013 Antarctic season, Japan killed a reported 103 minke whales. As of the 31st of March 2014, Japanese Antarctic whaling was declared illegal by the UN court, and they had found Japan's whaling in Antarctica did not comply with the IWC's definition of scientific permit whaling.
Special permits granted by Japan for the killing, taking and treating of whales in connection with JARPA 2 are not for purposes of scientific research.
However, on the 27th of November 2015, Japan announced it would resume whaling in the Antarctic Southern Ocean. The whalers took 330 minke whales, and 200 of those were pregnant. In light of these recent details, the future of whaling is now somewhat uncertain. Australia and New Zealand were driving forces behind the 2014 landmark ICJ ruling.
About science, it isn't about research, and that's one of Australia's primary objections to what's going on, is that they're calling it research, but it's really killing whales.
Led by Hunt, the Turnbull government ticked the usual boxes in response to Japan's confrontation. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and Foreign Minister Julie Bishop have reminded the Japanese government of Australia's steadfast opposition to whaling. There are plans to send an Australian customs vessel to assert our sovereignty in territorial Antarctic waters. As for the Sea Shepherd, it appears that they will not be an aggressive Southern Ocean presence this year. The Sea Shepherd's founder, Captain Paul Watson, said that while Sea Shepherd passionately opposes the Japanese resumption of Southern Ocean whaling, Sea Shepherd's tactics have been hamstrung by a tangle of litigation in the US courts by the activist organisation against Japan. The reality is that Australia, other governments and even activists have been blindsided. The Japanese announcement of the resumption of Southern Ocean whaling was made just before the whaling fleet was to leave for the killing zone. Japan's noises ever since the IJC ruling were not taken seriously enough. The Whale and Dolphin Protection Plan is made up of three components: the National Dolphin Conservation Plan, the National Whale Trail, and the National Strandings and Entanglement Action Plan. The Whale Trail Initiative aims to establish a national network of land-based whale observation sites, while the National Strandings and Entanglement Action Plan will support the relevant state authorities involved in strandings and entanglement incident responses. I look towards a future where man and whale can coexist in the oceans peacefully, where the exploitations of whales and cetaceans alike are no longer exploited for human financial gain. This issue is far from settled, and as long as there are still whaling ships in the open waters, there will be groups out there attempting to stop them.